Hey, Sun Devil fans, Brad Denny with 3TV, CBS 5, and the Speak of the Devils podcast here, bringing you another Speak of the Devils Sitdown Series episode, where I bring you in-depth one-on-one conversations with key players, coaches, and other figures within Sun Devil athletics. Is the core of a future Big 12 champion going to come from deep in the heart of Texas? We'll see. But the early returns of the Texas-to-Tempe pipeline are certainly promising. After years of making his name on the personnel and recruiting side of the game, Bryan Carrington made his on-field debut as a position coach last season, overseeing the Sun Devil cornerbacks. His group flashed some potential, and he continued to do well as an ace recruiter. Now, with a year of experience under his belt, as well as learning many valuable lessons, he's looking to elevate both the on- and off-field production of this group in 2024. On this episode, Bryan and I discuss reloading the cornerbacks room, the finer points of building a culture, how to succeed in recruiting, what the wave of Texas players will mean for ASU in the future, and so much more. So let's get to it. Here's my conversation with Bryan Carrington. All right, Bryan, I know that for assistant coaches, they lead busy lives. You guys are constantly throughout the year doing a lot of stuff. But you get a kind of a narrow window here and there to kind of reset and recharge away from football. I believe you just got back from Tokyo. What was that like, just being in Japan, and also just kind of, getting away from football? Because obviously you guys got a big, important season looming here and just starting up in a few weeks.
Oh, for sure. Ever since I was a child, I was just enamored with going to the largest city in the world. And for college coaches, we only have such a short window to even visit and go, on any tourism trips. So, this year I just decided to go to Tokyo with a close friend, and it was a great experience. I like to get far from a football when we get a window to have a vacation, just to kind of get a reset, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I believe there was like some national competition that Team Japan actually beat Team USA in football, and I saw making some Twitter rounds, people like, Team USA, how do you let this happen? So you didn't spot any talent. I know you're an ace recruiter, so do you have like kind of like half an eye out for some potential stars over there?
No, I stayed in like the metropolis of Tokyo, so I wasn't around any talent. Plus, it's the dead period during that time. I saw the score. I think it was like 41-20.
Yeah.
I would have to take a closer look before making an opinion on what happened in that game.
So, of course, back here, the players are in the middle of the Coach Joe's summer strength and conditioning workouts. And that, what kind of read do you have on kind of the progress your guys are making? Of course, so much of what ultimately plays out in the season goes on kind of behind the scenes as the team is getting physically ready, but also kind of bonding together and coming together off the field as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think the main emphasis is actually production when the season starts, but when we have these workouts, it really showcases effort. We have catapult systems, knowledge has increased with the sports science behind the players. So we're able to measure effort. We're able to see who's hitting, career highs as far as, miles per hour, so on and so forth. So just to see some of these guys in over 100%, 102%, 103% over their maximum workload is just something that showcases that a lot of guys are given maximum effort during these summer workouts.
Of course, last year with the first year of the staff, there was a lot of foundation laying and kind of, building towards a culture. Now in year two, you have a core of guys that have already been through everything that you and the staff want to put together and kind of have an understanding of the expectations, as well as, a crop of newcomers. How have you seen kind of the team culture, the program culture that you guys want to instill kind of evolve now that we're heading into the second season?
Guys have bought in, I would say. Guys have gotten comfortable being in Tempe, being around our family, and we've able to kind of pour the concrete and solidified our foundation. So moving forward, we can finally build on top of that house. So it's just a really good sign when the guys like being in Tempe, the guys like interacting with the coaches, the guys are befriending each other, starting from strangers, and now they're hanging out every day. It's just a showcase of the culture that Coach Dillingham has established here.
So last year was your first as an on-field assistant coach. Obviously, you have extensive experience in other capacities in major programs, but just in terms of being a position coach for a major college football program, how did the year kind of stack up to your expectations?
Yeah, it was a great year from a learning experience standpoint. I think experience is the best teacher. So just even when I was in my past being at personnel roles, I knew that at some point when I made this jump to position coach, there was going to be a learning curve. There was going to be so much experience that I would have to experience versus just learn and digest and learn on the go. So I felt that how the season played out and how those games played out gave a lot of um, opportunities for me to gather so much experience and so many different variables, so many different situations that I could pull from. Now moving forward, I can kind of put myself in those shoes, if that makes sense. So I felt like last year it was a lot of ups and downs as far as how our season played out, but it was a lot of wealthy experience opportunities for me being a first year position coach.
On that staff, there were a number of veteran coaches. The Brian Wards of the world. AJ Cooper's been around. Even on the offensive side, guys who have been in this industry for a long time. What were some of the things that you were able to pull from the veteran coaches on the staff? In your first year as a position coach, that you thought that you made some progress with throughout the course of the season.
Yeah, first off, those guys made me feel very comfortable. Those guys gave me an opportunity to have a role within the defense to grow and learn with those guys and how they have game planned in the process and how they prepared for teams. So I was kind of a fly on the wall in a sense from spring ball, and then slowly but surely just got a little bit more added onto my plate as we got into the season. So just for it being my first year being a position coach and having the wealth of experience in the room was definitely beneficial to me year one.
How do you feel that you grew, and the areas that you grew the most? From when you guys wrapped up to the season to kind of that first day that you took the job and stepped into the role. Where did you see the greatest strides made?
Yeah, I feel like the greatest strides that were made was probably from December up to now, because we had to, learning the defense that we run and then actually playing with our personnel in that defense and being able to review the film this entire off season versus as well as when you add us being able to recruit for our roster, it just paints a clearer picture as far as what we want to do from a defensive standpoint, what Coach Ward's vision is from our defensive standpoint, even from a personnel standpoint, and how he calls and how he plays certain situations. It's just been so much growth from December through spring ball to where we are now.
Now you've even though his first year as a position coach, obviously been around the game for a long time. Have you ever been a part of a season maybe as unusual as the one Arizona State had a season ago? Obviously, injuries were such a big factor. Multiple five quarterbacks, tight end. Defense played pretty well in spots, but just overall, kind of with a lot of the external stuff beyond the players and coaches' control. What was that experience like of just going through a year with so many twists and turns?
Yeah, I would say it was a year that I haven't experienced in the sport. But that's what happens in sports. I mean, you gotta play the hand that you're dealt. You got to make the best of your situation. And injuries are unfortunate. And the game of football is a game of inches. So many situations that I could play back from the season that it came down to a few inches. If we took a few steps left instead of a few steps right, we could have made a play or two. So I'm a real believer that football is a game of inches. Injuries are an unfortunate part of the game. We just had to play the hand that we were dealt last season. We had to make the best of it.
Now, when you take kind of the totality of the season and you look at your group of corners there, overall, how do you feel that the corners performed in 2023?
Yeah, I feel like the corners performed okay last season. We didn't perform great. We didn't achieve certain goals that we had for ourselves as a group. We wish that we produced a little bit more turnovers as a unit, as a defense, as a secondary collectively, but I felt that there were a lot of flashes in certain games where guys rose to the occasion. And moving forward, those younger guys in that room had the opportunity to be a witness to what happened and to know how close we were in certain situations. I mean, we held a team that made the college football national championship game to no offensive touchdowns when we played our best. So it just showcased to the younger guys that are still with us moving forward that we're close. 3-9 does not define who we were last year. And I think moving forward, I don't think guys are, weighing it down on their shoulders. Our record last year. Last year was last year. We can only control what we can control now. So we're just moving forward, trying to build upon what we can build, which can be a special program here at Arizona State.
Obviously, kind of a tough year, kind of throwing with the administration handing down the bowl ban just the days before the season, the injuries, the defense, with the offense's injury issues, maybe feeling a little bit like they had maybe some added pressure there. Overall, just how do you feel? What stood out to you about how the players handled all the adversity, the obstacles, the things that were kind of thrown at them and outside of their control, but they had to face nonetheless?
It's hard. It's hard to, put yourselves in the shoes of a 18 to 21-year-old or 22-year-old whom this might be my last year of eligibility, and you get a bowl ban. So we as coaches can motivate and be enthusiastic and try to get guys not to worry about that type of thing. But I felt like that was something that took a blow to the players, especially looking back now. These are kids. They're very impressionable young men, and to have the rug swept from under them before the start of the season, probably was very devastating. Dealing with injuries was probably, very, very devastating, especially with what these kids on our roster have been through these past few years being here at Arizona State. But like I said before, we just had to make the best out of our situation and deal with adversity, because even in life outside of football, you're always going to be faced with adversity. Everything's not going to always go your way. And that's the beauty of playing this game called football. It's very relatable, and all the lessons that you learn in football are very translatable to your life. They transition into corporate America. They transition into relationships with friends and family based off of the experiences that you have, the adversity that you have, the trials and tribulations on and off the field.
Even though the ultimate record wasn't what anybody in that building wanted at 3-9, there was some good moments. You mentioned that some of the standout performance against Washington, maybe top of the list. But overall, what were some of your favorite moments throughout the course of the year, whether kind of on the field and performance-wise, or maybe moments off the field?
I'm a very optimistic person, so I'm a glass half full type of guy. So just when I think about the season, it's just pieces, it's moments. It's being in Sun Devil Stadium, and the student section is rocking, and it's a crazy atmosphere of being on the road, and we have these icy white uniforms, and just to see how enthusiastic our players are to put that on, put that body armor on and go play for us. It's just so many moments that you want to have in the future with these guys. Like I want, these guys to be putting 3X T-shirts over their shoulder pads in December or January at a bowl game and confetti dropping. I want to be there when they have those moments. I feel like the rings really don't define the experience. The moments and the great times, are the things that you're always going to talk back and replay in your mind. Hey, remember when so-and-so caught a pick six in the fourth quarter against so-and-so after we thought we were going to lose the game. It's those critical moments for me personally that I feel like are more valuable than, championship rings and things like that.
How did you see Kenny kind of handle everything? And first-year head coach, obviously, he's got a lot on his plate, running a major college football program, and then everything external, all the injuries, and the cooking up the swinging gate and starting quarterback, all this stuff that he had to deal with in year one. How did you see Kenny Dillingham kind of handle everything?
I thought he handled it with so much enthusiasm. I feel like he's a very optimistic person as well. And I just felt like this is his dream job. And so he walked in every day ready to face any task thrown his way, super zealous, full of initiative, full of zeal. That's Coach Dillingham. That's who he is. And that's the infectious energy that he possesses. And it lights up a room. It passes on to others.
So much of what goes on into those 3 months of the season, or what happens in the 9 months kind of surrounding that season, and obviously since he took over, activating the Valley has been a rallying cry for Kenny and the entire program. How, that heading into year 2, how do you see the activation of the Valley, whether it's in terms of recruiting or just forging those relationships with the program that, given the current landscape of collegiate athletics is so vital?
Yeah, I think the landscape of collegiate athletics now is not just acquiring talent, it's retaining talent. It's guys loving where their 10 toes are. And I feel like a majority of the roster, if not all of the roster, love being in Tempe, Arizona. So when you have guys that love the football program, the football aspect, but also love Tempe, Arizona State, and the community that extends from Tempe, that's when you have something special. That's when you have players that can really activate this place, from the players on our team and them building relationships with the communities that touch Arizona State. That's something I've been able to witness a lot from December to now. Even if it's from an NIL standpoint, from a networking standpoint, from a kid just discovering, like we had a kid on our roster, Clayton Smith, has an NIL deal with a reptile company because he loves snakes. So just to see kids have those type of tangible relationships with people they can reach out and touch outside of the Arizona State community, that's a true testament of how we can activate the Valley. We are activating the Valley as we speak. And when we have players that love being here, that love Coach Dillingham, that love playing for us, and we bring recruits and their families on our campus, that's when you can really, stock the pond. That's when you can really start bringing the top talent in the country to Arizona State, because it's going to be a hard narrative to defeat. It's going to be a lot of people playing in the Big 12 that come out here and play in Arizona State in October, November, late November, when it's cold where they're playing. And the word is going to spread how awesome this place is. And when the word spreads how awesome this place is and kids come on campus and our own players stamp Coach Dillingham, stamp Coach Ward, stamp Coach Coop, that's when you start signing elite, top blue chip caliber talent here. So I feel like we're slowly but surely building this house here, building something special here at Arizona State.
Of course, while the activating the Valley continues, on the rise, the Texas-to-Tempe pipeline continues to flow pretty well. Overall, this is a question I've asked, a lot of the Texas guys that, coming in themselves, the players. But what do you feel makes Texas guys different?
I just feel like it's a really good high quality of football in the state of Texas, from even youth league organizations to middle school programs to high school programs. Is just a religion, if you will. So I just feel like us being able to have a pipeline in Texas just pays dividends for the long term. These are kids that love football, that give their heart and their soul, out there on the field. And I just feel in modern times, you have to establish national pipelines. I feel like we've done a great job of activating the Valley, trying to keep the best local kids here home. I feel like we've done an unbelievable job through Coach Saga and Coach Aguano of the Poly Pipeline. We've also have a large pipeline that's brewing for the Cali Devils. We even have some Louisianimals. We need to start a hashtag with those guys that we got coming over here. So just us being able to activate the Valley and have regions around this country that we can pull talent from. And we have tangible examples on our roster right now. I mean, that's how you really can truly build a program, because we're going to be able to have so much diversity, pulling kids from hotbeds where talent is consistently produced. I mean, there's no better formula given our landscape here at Arizona State to be able to have that type of reach.
So, that reach, how important is that diversity? Because, in talking to some of the guys, it seems like there's a friendly rivalry, amongst some of the guys, the Texas players and the Cali Devils, obviously, two of the historic hotbeds, just how important is it to have, to be hitting in those key areas? You mentioned, Louisiana might be kind of next up there, to, just have those guys and coming together from different regions, but still, ultimately, playing for that maroon and gold.
It's an amazing thing, especially once they get to know each other, because it's not just like we're in prison and all the Texas guys eat lunch here, and all the Cali guys eat lunch here. These guys are intertwined and building so many organic relationships. It's not what it may appear on social media as if guys are clicked up. Once you become a Sun Devil, your family. So it's all types of cliques within our roster of people that are the most diverse group you could think of.
Of course, the move to the Big 12, how is that impacting your recruiting efforts and the staff's recruiting efforts in Texas? Obviously, kind of shifting away, maybe not, at least in terms of the opponents, but, kind of making that shift into Big 12 country.
I think it's unbelievable because now, after recruiting the state of Texas through Texas-to-Tempe, now you have an opportunity to put a product on the field in the state of Texas with games in Texas. So Texas athletes will be able to watch you, and that'll just spread the word of Texas-to-Tempe even further. I feel like each coach on our roster has an advocate in their room right now. Every coach on our roster has somebody in their position group outside of Coach Arroyo, I believe, that is from the state of Texas. So that gives you validity when you're recruiting the state of Texas. It's not like Coach Coop is going to South Dallas trying to recruit a linebacker and, he needs a favor, or he's, trying to get it off the ground. And he has a living example of a kid from South Dallas in his room, to where he has an example that he can lead with, and he has something to where that can aid him through the recruiting process. Based on his relationship with Crook, they have a great relationship. So what do you think that kid from that region, if he comes on campus and actually likes Arizona State, Jordan Crook is going to extend the lead for us. I mean, I feel like that's a hidden variable in how recruiting can be closed, without kids taking other visits, because they initially have interest. They come here. This place feels like home. They love the aesthetics. They love the scenery. And then when we coaches who have been marketing our program sell, we leave, Jordan Crook is going to tell that kid the real. He's not going to tell that kid the fake. And there's opposite ends of the spectrum. If that relationship wasn't good at other schools, the exact opposite happens. We could do a great job recruiting, but if the players on our roster are not going to be advocates for us, we will not be able to recruit at a high level. So it's super important that we continue building and establishing and maintaining relationships where we're building these pipelines. We need to continue to maintain all of our poly pipeline connections, Cali Devil connections, Texas-to-Tempe connections, because in today's world, when every kid has a cell phone, the world is so small. It's so smaller now, to where now you have, players that you can market in specific regions that other kids would aspire to be just like. I want to go to Arizona State and be like Jordan Crook. I want to be like Keith Abney, the kid that grew up where I'm from, and he's having success at Arizona State.
So, of course, during the spring, one of the staff members, Rashad Sample, is a guy that you've worked with extensively at a couple of stops. He moved on to Oregon, but, how did your time working together most recently in Tempe do you feel it's kind of helped elevate you and evolve you as a recruiter?
I mean, it's awesome. I mean, I told Samp when we were at TCU, when I was at Arizona State, like, at some point somebody's gonna come break this thing up. It's inevitable. I'm just blessed to have been around Samp and for a short time at 3 different schools, and we just have a lot of chemistry. We've just been able to have so much success together, and learning from each other through during our younger years, to where it's paid off in the latter years of our career.
So in looking back at spring ball, how much of what you wanted to accomplish with the corners did you get through during those 15 practices?
I feel like we got a lot accomplished through our 15 practices. We've just been really focused on the details, preaching the details, wanting guys to just focus on every single little small detail, from a stance, from an alignment, from knowing your job. We've come up with different ways to quiz our guys, whether it be on the field walkthroughs, whether it be through some we're using some new software called Kahoot, whether it's on something as a visual aid, just trying to get our guys to just kind of eliminate areas for gray. If we can eliminate areas for gray and just make sure that we can know our stance, our alignment, our assignment, our read, our key, our technique, every single play, then we can really add on top of this house and know everything else and get into more intricacies of our defense or route concepts or so much more further advanced topics. But we just have to create a standard that it's a non-negotiable in certain things that we require. So going through this spring, it was a little bit more attention to detail. It was a lot more discipline. It was a lot more. There wasn't room for gray, if that makes sense, this spring. And we were really, and Coach Walk has been really tremendous to my development as a cornerback coach. And he is so detailed oriented. He is very detail oriented. And so every time we talk and go over film and go over every one of our individual drills or what we need to work on, it's the details. So that's what we've been harping on with our guys. And I feel like we have a really good room. We have a lot of athletic, young, vibrant kids that love football and are students of the game and want to be here. And they're competitive, but, we're not trying to have any man left behind at this point, but come August, the competition starts. So this spring was just making sure that everybody knew their job. We got 2 transfers coming in. We got 4 freshman cornerbacks. We just want to make sure that guys knew their job. And then now going into August, we have a lot of healthy bodies. We have a lot of athletic bodies. I feel that room is much more athletic than it was a year ago. So we're just excited to see, who rises to the top.
Yeah, so I want to break down those guys here with you in a moment. But I recently spoke to Brian Ward, and he mentioned that, amongst the guys that are coming back for a second year in this system, that one of the key differences is that they're now understanding the why in terms of the defensive scheme and not just, knowing, okay, what to do, but like the why, and it's helping improve that play. What have you seen from, the returning corners, maybe just the overall returners on defense, having that experience in year 2 and how much of a difference that can make?
The biggest difference is guys are now able to play football instead of just processing and thinking and wondering what their assignment is, wondering what their stance is, wondering what their depth is. We run a NFL model defense. So there's a lot of attachments. There's a lot of stuff you need to know to play at a high speed. And sometimes we can slow things down and Coach Ward can say, hey, you're not playing football here. You're thinking, you're processing. So those second year players that have had a year under their belt in this scheme, you can just see those guys taking the next step. They're able to play football. They're able to anticipate faster because they're not thinking, they're not processing. They get an opportunity to play football.
All right, so breaking down some of the guys, the guy you mentioned a little bit earlier, Keith Abney, had some good moments as a true freshman. It really seems to be kind of elevating his on-field game, but also off the field as kind of one of the young team leaders here.
Yeah, Keith Abney is an unbelievable kid. He's the type of kid that coaches would say you would let him date your daughter type deal. So for him to be a freshman, he won the Pat Tillman Award as a true freshman here. I mean, just a very dependable, trustworthy kid. He's never late. He's always on time. He's always attentive. I think he had a 4.0 GPA last semester, and this semester he's in the Barrett Honors College. I mean, there's nothing he can't do. When he puts his mind to. He was playing corner. He subbed in at nickel. He just plays everything at a high level. He's a smart, very, very smart kid. The sky is the limit for that kid, and we're so excited to have him on board.
Another guy returning, Keonte Bradley, great size, had some really standout moments in spring. It seems like a guy still kind of maybe finding his footing in this defense.
Yeah, Keonte is an exceptional athlete. He's a rare athlete. He got in on campus last summer, so was kind of thrown into a whirlwind being our 5th cornerback last year, who would be tasked to play an emergency. Luckily, we didn't face injuries in my room last year, and we were able to get through the season. But he's made a lot of strides from spring ball, from December to now. His process has been very pleased. I've been very pleased with his process. He's able to play football now. I've had conversations with him during the spring where you can pause film, and when I watch film with him, we can have those conversations. What were you thinking here? Coach, I was thinking this. I wasn't having an opportunity to play and use my skill set. For a guy like that, he just needs to play football. He needs to understand what the defense requires of him, and then let's go play football. But he's an exceptional athlete. I feel like the sky is the limit for this kid from an athletic standpoint.
And you mentioned a couple of guys coming in through the transfer portal. A guy that maybe wasn't here last year, but some experience in the defense, playing at Wazoo for Coach Ward and Javin Robinson. What did you see from him?
Yeah, Javin Robinson is very explosive. He's trustworthy. He's smart. He definitely understands the defense, being that he was in it at Washington State, so he was able to hit the ground running. There wasn't much of a learning curve needed for Javin. He is a guy that we're tasking to be a veteran in the room, to be a leader in the room. He's taken a lot of leadership steps from the middle of spring to now. He's a guy that the younger guys kind of look up to. So I'm pleased to see what he'll look like after these summer workouts, adding a few more pounds and getting into August.
And LT Welch coming over from LSU, obviously a big-time program there. It seemed like, at least from the media standpoint and watching the practice, that he kind of really found his stride as spring continued to go on in the latter parts.
Yes, he did. He's a physical guy. He's a very physical guy. I really like the what he brings to the room from a physical standpoint. He is very relentless. He is a practicer. He's a guy on the catapults, is giving 100% effort every single day. Every single day, he's bringing his lunch pail at practice. I'm excited to see him in our defense, in our scheme. He's a guy that, similar to Javin, is Javin and LT are the oldest guys in the room. So those are guys that we're tasking to be the veteran presence in that room. Those guys have played and they're experienced in college. They played college football games. So when you talk about the guys from last year, you got Javin Robinson, you got LaTerrence Welch, you got Keith Abney. Nobody else has played in a college football game in that room. So we need those guys to step it up.
Rodney Vimage was really, I thought, impressive throughout the course of the spring as a true freshman. It's not an easy thing to do, but it seemed like every day or he's making a play or two that just like what was pretty impressive. Where do you see him kind of factoring in? Does he have a chance to be in that 2 deep for year one?
Yeah, he has a chance. All of these freshmen have a chance to compete. The beauty behind freshmen getting in January is coming in from January, have an opportunity to compete in spring ball, pull your ruler out, measure yourself against your peers, understand the defense and the playbook to where now in August you're prepared for competition versus a guy that comes in the summer. It's kind of hard to learn the playbook and be, fierce in competition, especially in college. It's not like high school where they line up in 2x2 and snap the football. It's so much thing. They line up in 2x2, motion a bunch. We have a motion a bunch adjustment. They line up in 3x1 and motion a 2x2. We have an adjustment for that. So for younger guys, it's harder for a younger guy to come in the summer, learn the defense, and be able to compete and play and be serviceable without risk of making mistakes. So having a guy like Rodney Vimage here in January, as well as the other 2 freshmen, is huge for his opportunity to play this year. He, just as much as the other 2 freshmen, have a great opportunity to play this season, but we got to continue to develop, and we got to be, ready to go in spring ball. Because how we're doing it, we're just gonna cook the recipe and see what floats to the top first.
So, of course, with Roe, D, Ed, all kind of departing from San Diego, a lot of opportunities for those guys in that room now. With fall camp just a few weeks away, how are you going to kind of, handle those battles, those guys competing, to get those starting jobs? From a coach's standpoint, how are you going to kind of administrate that competition and that mix?
It's all about production. It's all about production when those lights come on. It's all about production, whether it's in a scrimmage, whether it's in a team period. That eye in the sky is going to be, your audition. At the end of fall camp, What will the film say about you? That will be the judgment call. That will be the deciding factor as far as what the depth chart will look like. But as for now, I would say it's wide open.
So ultimately, when this 2024 season wraps up, what are some of the things that you want to be able to look back upon and be able to say that this year was successful for my cornerbacks?
Yeah, I would want to say that we're a very competitive group. I want to challenge the route tree. I want to be able to play good press and man coverage. And I want guys to be productive. I don't want to give up deep balls. I don't want to give up, 100-yard games against wide receivers. I want to win, so the litmus test, the judgment, the final call at the end of the season will be productivity and those wins and those losses.
I'd like to thank Bryan for taking the time to talk with me for this episode. Make sure you are subscribed to Speak of the Devils on the podcast platform of your choice for more great episodes featuring one-on-one conversations with Athletic Director Graham Rossini, the entire Sun Devil football coaching staff, many key players, and a whole lot more. And also be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at bdenny29.